In this tutorial, we're going to learn about some of the basic word processing tools and also learn about the interface in Word. And in our second part, we're going to learn about the same things in Google Docs, so you'll be able to do word processing in both programs. So to begin, I just want to go over some basic terminology associated with Word. You'll see up here we have this large area that many people call the toolbar, but actually what Microsoft calls this is the ribbon. So in any future videos, when you hear a reference to the ribbon, this is the area that we're talking about. You'll see the ribbon is broken up into different groups. So on the far left you have the clipboard group, the font group, paragraph group, and the styles group. Above the ribbon we have tabs. So when you hear a reference to a tab, for instance, if I were to say go to the Insert tab, you click on the Insert tab that's above the ribbon. On the ribbon in these groups, you'll notice that there's these little boxes in the corner that have an arrow. These are called Font and Dialog. This is the Font and Dialog box launcher. So if I clicked on that, it would open up another menu. So each group, not all of them, but most of the groups have their own dialog box launchers. I have the Paragraph dialog box launcher there. So that gives you a brief idea of what the interface is set up in Word. So let's go ahead and move on, and we want to start talking about the font. And in the font group, we can see this is where we would change our font and our size. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the word equals rand, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, and hit enter to give us some text to work with. Now, some of the things I can do is I can select text by just highlighting this whole area, or I can use a shortcut, Control A. If I hit the Control key and click A, it will select the entire document. I can come up into the font group, and then I can simply select my text, and you can simply hover over the different texts to see what they will look like. And we're just going to go with Calibri, which is a very basic text. Right next to that, then, you'll see that we have the point size, and we can adjust that. And the same thing, if we hover over these, you can see what this will look like with the font. And most of the time, for the body of most documents, we're going to be using 11 or 12 point font. We use larger font sizes if we're doing a header or a title or something else within the document. But most of the time we're using either an 11 or 12 point font. Now, if we want to do some further formatting here, if I want to underline, bold, and italicize something, so I'm just going to highlight some text here, I can go up into the font group and I can click on the B for bold, the I for italicize, and the U for underline. To undo any of these things, I can simply re-click that particular icon, or I can do Control Z, which is a shortcut to undo something. I can also change the font color, so I'm going to go ahead and select a little bit of the text there, and you'll see here there's this A with this red underneath it. The default color is set to black, but I can change this by going to another color, change it to this maroon color, and you can see now that it has changed the color in the document. One of the other things that we'll find in the font group is called the sub and superscript, which are right here. And what those are is, let's say we are in science class and we are doing water, which is H2O, and we want that 2 to be a little bit below the line. So I'd click on the subscript, and then that would do that right there for you. And then let's say I'm in math class and I'm doing something with exponents, so I have x to the second power. I can highlight the 2 and put that as a superscript. So those are the most common things that you would probably be doing with any kind of text in Microsoft Word. Now, some other things that we do want to go through then is the page setup. So if I go to the page layout tab above the ribbon, first thing we're going to go through is the margins. If we pull down the margins, you're going to see there are some preset margins that you can select from. The default should be set at 1 inch all the way around, but we can also do custom margins, where I can then go ahead, I can actually key in the size of the margins that I want. So I'm just going to increase these to 2 inches so you can kind of see how this will affect the document. And I'll just go ahead and click OK. And you can see now there is much more white space around the text because I've made the margins so large. I'm just going to go back and reset those to normal, and then they will just go back to the way they were. Now right next to that, you'll also see orientation. This is the direction that the paper is going to print in. The default is in portrait, which means the document is taller than it is wide, but I can change that to landscape, and then the document will become wider than it is tall. Most of our applications we're using are in portrait, but there are times where we might be doing some other kind of document where we want to do it in the landscape orientation. We can also change the page color and the page layout. If I just close down to page layout, the page color. If I hover over, you can see the different color options that you have. I'll just make it this brown color. And right next to that, I can also do borders. And I can do a page border. I'll just select a box. And there we have a page border. And if I want to remove that, I can go back to page borders and I can just select none and click OK. Something else you can do in Word is add a watermark. And a watermark is kind of some text that kind of sits behind the rest of the document. Here are some common ones. You might mark it do not copy so that someone knows, or if it is copied, it'll come up. You can also do custom watermarks, so I can go to custom watermark, and we get this box that comes up, and I'm going to do a text watermark, and it's going to ask me what text I want to put in, and I'm just going to put in Leiden. I can select my font, so I can change that. Just stick with Times New Roman for this, and I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And you can see now the watermark is behind here. Now if I change the page color back, it'll be a little bit easier to see. And you can see that it kind of sits behind the rest of the text in the document. So that's the watermark. Now one of the other things that you're probably going to want to be able to change pretty frequently, especially for English classes, we're going to want to double space. So I'm going to go back to my Home tab, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, since I have some text already, I'm going to hit Control A to select all my text. And there's a couple different ways to change your line spacing. I can come right here in the paragraph group and I can click down and I can select 2 for double space. If I undo this by hitting Control Z, I can also do a shortcut Control 2, which will also double space the document. So either way, you'll be able to double space your document pretty easily, so that's where you're going to want to do that. Now one of the other things that you're going to have to do frequently is go into the header. And the header is going to be at the very top of the document. You can do it by clicking at the very top of the document or double clicking, or you can go to Insert and I can go to Header. And I can go to blank, I can go to 3 column. Why don't we go ahead and do a blank, and I'm just going to type in a name, Smith. And then if I want to put it on the other side of the document, I go back to Home, we have these alignment icons here, and I can click on the right align, and I can move that header then to the right side of the paper depending on how I want to use it. You can also do footers, which are the same thing. You'll notice that the footer also comes up when the header is selected. So I can go down into the footer. Oops. I'm just going to go to Insert. I'm going to go into the footer, and the same thing, you get the same options, except this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a page number, and I'm just going to do it from the current position, and I'm going to select plain number, you'll see now that the page number appears at the bottom of the page. So there you have it with headers and footers, and also with your page numbers. Not too bad. And then the next thing we want to do is, most of you are probably familiar, but we just want to make sure, is how to cut, paste, and copy. And the easiest way to do this is by using the shortcuts. So if I want to select this text, and let's say I want to cut this, I'm going to hit Control X to cut it, and I can put it somewhere else. I'm just going to click to the bottom of the document and hit Control V for paste. That's V as in Victor. And you can see now that text is in fact at the bottom there. Now I'm going to hit Control Z just to undo, and I'm going to hit Control Z again to undo, to kind of get where I started from. Now you could also select the text, and then you can right click your mouse and do cut. Now let's say I want to make a copy of this. I can right click and I can copy it, or I can use my shortcut Control C, and I can come down to the bottom of my document and hit Control V as in Victor, and I can copy the text, and it's still up there at the top of the document. So there you have cut, copy, and paste. And finally, the last basic thing that we want to show you in Word is how to print and also to save. So if you're using Word 2010, you're going to have a File tab up here. If you're using Microsoft Office 07, you're going to see an Office button in the upper left hand corner, and essentially does the same thing. So I'm going to go to File, and I can go down to Print. You can see it gives me a print preview of what this is going to look like, and then I would simply just hit my print icon. If I want to save, I can do a save as, which will allow me to name my document, and I'll just hit save. You'll also notice there are other formats you can save, and if I do a save as, I can actually come down here and I can save this in the old version of Microsoft Word. I can create a PDF. So there are other options that you will have. Go ahead and hit cancel there. So there's some computer or some word processing basics that you might need for Word, and next we'll concentrate on some of the same things but understanding how to do those things in Google Docs.